Welcome to Stoked with Megan McPhail, the podcast that helps you get super effing jazzed about your work, life, and bank account. I'm your host, Megan McPhail, a former burnt-out emergency veterinarian that quit my hard-earned career to become a seven-figure business coach, entrepreneur, and elopement photographer. Now I'm living a life I absolutely love, full of travel, adventure, and financial abundance, and I am hell-bent on inspiring others to do the same. Are you ready to say goodbye to the 9-to-5 grind and start going after some big, bold dreams? Then let's dive into this week's episode. Hey, it's your host, Megan McPhail, and today I have a really cool guest. We have Crystal Gillis. She is a backcountry hair and makeup artist for couples that are doing adventure elopements. She's based out of Colorado. We've worked together. You've also worked with my husband, Todd, with some video stuff. And I'm so excited to have you. Welcome, Crystal.
Hey, Megan. How's it going?
Good. I'm so excited to talk about this because there's so many photographers and couples out there that have no idea that you are offering this service and that this is even a potential thing. But before we get into all of the cool stuff that you do for our adventure elopement couples, why don't you let us know kind of your backstory? How did you get involved in elopement styling?
Yeah. So I have been doing hair behind the chair for, I hate saying this, 20 years. I feel like if you say you've been doing hair for 15 years, you sound really experienced and well done, good for you. But if you say you've been doing it for 20 years, you just sound really old. But this year,
yeah,
I hate it so much. But this year does actually mark 20 years for me. And I've done a lot of bridal in salon. I've done a lot of bridal, doing traditional weddings and that kind of thing. And I found over the years that I would avoid working Saturdays and doing that thing because I didn't really enjoy the chaos, the commotion, the emotional heightenedness of working a wedding in the salon. And so my husband and I, we got married about 7 years ago, and we got married at a campground and we rented out this whole thing. And I had a couple of girlfriends come out from the salon and help me get ready. And I remember thinking to myself, I wish that I could do wedding hair, but only in this context,
outdoors.
Outdoors. We had a generator next to a picnic table. And I'm like, this could be done better for sure. But I only want to do it outdoors. And so it was just kind of a dream noodling around in the back of my brain until COVID hit. And COVID really opened the door for this exact style of wedding to become a lot more popular and a lot more accessible to people. And I started, my husband looks at me, he's like, I think now is the time.
Yeah.
So that's really when I launched Wild Brides. And 2021, I started to kind of reach out to photographers and get in touch with people saying, hey, this is a thing that I'm offering for your brides. What do you think of this idea? And one really special one, actually, Sean from Vows and Peaks, he picked me up right away and he's like, cool, man, let's give this a shot. And so if you've met Sean, you know exactly, it was that tone of voice and everything.
Yes, exactly that way.
Yes. And so I kind of cut my teeth there with him and worked with him on a bunch of stuff, getting started. And now it's just really up and rolling and taking off. And I've been able to get out there with over 100 brides now out in the backcountry, just doing
That's amazing,
absolutely bonkers stuff. Have so much fun. So yeah, that's how it started.
So what are you doing actually, as this adventure elopement stylist? Because you are out in the wilderness. So why don't you tell us kind of what a typical elopement day looks like for you?
Yeah. So a typical elopement day, most of them so many of them start, they're all sunrises. There's a couple people that'll do an afternoon elopement. For the most part, we work mostly sunrise. And so for us, that's a start time of somewhere between 1.5 to 2 hours before the couple is going out to meet with their photographers. So that's a lot of prep time. We're doing almost the full hair and makeup during that time. And then I venture out into the wild with them. So at that point, right before they do the first look, I finish up that last, 10, 20%, throw a lip color on, make sure that their hair is all placed perfectly, help them get into the dress, making sure that they look absolutely perfect before they run out there for first look. And then the rest of my day from that point, because I'm with them almost as much time as they're with their photographer.
Yeah.
So the rest of my day is kind of spent like just being good old Mary Poppins, MacGyver, like snack Sherpa. I'm just carrying around. Yeah. I usually have their jacket. I'm always standing behind the photographer, making sure that they're warm, making sure that,
Mm-hmm.
their hair is not blowing in their face, making sure that their veil is perfectly placed or the dress is fluffed. I really try to like be strategic with the photographer, work with their rhythm, and make sure that in between shots, I can be doing like little touch ups, or if I see something that the photographer doesn't necessarily, because, I'm looking at their full on 3D human self, and you
Yeah.
guys are kind of looking through a viewfinder. So things like tags on suits, or, the lace is misplaced, or there's a weird iron burn hole in the dress or something like that. I can go
Mm-hmm.
and kind of correct some of these issues on the fly so that the couple can focus on just being in love and just being in that moment. And then the photographers can focus on just being photographers and taking
Yeah.
pretty pictures of mountains. So
Yeah. I love that. And you're like hiking with these couples and the
I am
photographer,
hiking with
right?
these couples. Yes. Yeah. So I'm
That-
going out there with them. Yeah. It's nice because we do specialize in elopements. So like all of the hair, all of the makeup is really foundationally set in such a
Mhm.
way that like they can withstand these kind of adventures. So there's not a lot that needs to be touched up and redone. But yeah, I've done 12-mile hikes with couples. We've done an entire, well, Todd was actually on this one. We've done a
Mhm.
6-mile hike in the rain before.
Yes.
That one was fun.
Yeah. Oh, I got the whole
Um,
lowdown on that one for sure.
we will talk about that day till the day we die.
Yeah.
But the stuff, even though we're out there and I can, handle problems on the fly, these things are really set to last for that amount of
Mhm.
time and that kind of craziness. So
Yeah, I thought that bride looked beautiful in her video and
we
photos,
so
even though you
did.
guys were in a downpour.
I think from a career standpoint, that was kind of a magnus opus moment where I'm like, oh my God, there it is. I can do this. It can withstand rain. She still looks gorgeous. Like
Mhm.
makeup's flawless. Hair was flawless. So the whole thing worked out really, really slick.
Yeah, I love that. So when I have told brides before who are like, I want to hike, but I don't understand like how I'm going to have my hair and makeup done. I haven't worn makeup in years. I can't do it myself, but I want to look glam and stuff. And I'm like, well, I know someone who will hike with you on your elopement day at the butt crack of dawn. And
The very butt crack of it.
yes. Yeah. And like do your hair and makeup, not only like before the hike, but touch ups during the hike so that you look your best. And, I've had brides who are just like, well, then that solves all of my concerns. So you're really doing a huge thing for these people who want to have adventures, but they're concerned about how they look. Cause I know I get red faced, I get sweaty on hikes.
Yeah. And one of the things that like you brought up at the beginning of that was these people that are, but I haven't worn makeup in years. And I will tell
Mhm.
you that for one, like we know our clientele. We know
Mhm.
who we're working with. Every single one of my consultations with the bride starts with, I don't do my own hair or I don't do my own makeup. So
Mhm.
we're very like, that's another thing is that we work really hard to do is to tailor our aesthetic towards that kind of mountain makeup feel where I want their fiancés to recognize them, but I also want them to have eyes, nose, ears, and a mouth in the type of photography that you guys do.
Mhm.
Which after a couple of years of doing this, I've come to really realize that there is something very specific about elopement photography and its relation to makeup specifically, where you're taking most of the photographs from about 20 feet away. You guys are out there taking pretty pictures of mountains. Then it just happens that there's this beautiful couple in the foreground. Whereas that is very, very different than traditional bridal makeup where you're all in a concert hall. You've got your aunts and uncles and grandma and whatever that's coming up and 5 inches from your face and hugging you. It's
Mhm.
very specific. So I love working with these very, very au naturel, people who
Mhm.
don't do a lot of stuff on their day to day because I can just bring up their natural features and make it so that it's out there and aesthetically,
Yeah,
you know,
accentuated
cohesive.
their
Yeah.
natural beauty, yeah. So
Enhance
there's
natural.
Yeah, so there's a big difference between you as an elopement stylist and like a traditional wedding hair and makeup artist.
Very, very different. Oh man, I just tried writing a blog on this today and it's like, where do you want me to start?
Yeah, now you can just link to this podcast episode. Yeah.
Go here. I say a bunch of stuff
Yeah.
and, take notes or something. I mean, for one, I think from just an aesthetic standpoint, there is, I think when people imagine getting their hair and makeup done by a traditional bridal stylist, they kind of go back in their brains to their last prom or their sister's wedding where somebody came in and tried to do like this very full glam look with lots and lots of makeup compounded on top of their face.
Yeah.
So from an aesthetic standpoint alone, we do try to bring things down to as natural and just feature enhancement as possible. It's not that we can't do glam. We do a fair amount of it. But to be honest, like in that mountain elopement photography aesthetic, it doesn't necessarily work because a lot of times with like full heavy lashes, it can really darken the eyes and we need to have them bright and out there. And, I want lip colors that look like they could have grown out of your face and those kind of things. So the aesthetic is quite different. What we are looking for in terms of like skin tones, foundation, complexion, makeup, that kind of thing. I want freckles to come through. I want people to look like themselves. Whereas in a more traditional bridal style, I feel like it's okay to sort of
dial it up to 12 or something.
Dial it up to 12. Thank you. Yes. Dial it up to 12. Like, how do I not bash
on a scale of 1 to 10
thing of my industry? Yeah, like they can really take it up a notch. And then foundationally for hair, we kind of scrapped everything and kind of built everything from the ground up in terms of how do I make updos? How do I make beachy waves? How do I make these things last these 6-mile hikes? Do I have to put somebody in foam rollers to get them out there? It's happened. I've done it before. I'll do it again. How do I work with people's natural hair texture? Because I find that if I pull in somebody's natural hair texture and try not to beat it in submission with a lot of product and a lot of heat styling, I can actually get a lot of that texture, airy prettiness to last longer than if I am, spraying down and heat styling every single strand of hair on their head. And then foundations, like, I am pretty much not using hairpins anymore. It's a lot of using rubber bands and braiding to get things to be wrapped into each other. So it's from just like a technique standpoint, it's what can I do to make this architecturally very, very, very strong, but still look light and airy and beautiful out on the mountain.
I love all that. I mean, this is what's so cool about people who are like professionals in their industry and stuff. Cause like I see all these beautiful photos, but I don't realize all of the trial and error and thought processes that goes into all of it. And it's very thoughtful. And I love that. And it's truly a different market and a different type of person that you are serving. And it's just so cool to hear you talk about it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, like after a couple of years of doing this, to look back and go, wow, I'm really a geek for this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I am hardcore geeking out on braids and rubber bands. Like, okay.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the stylist you want on your wedding day, though, right? Like the person who's like, I've come up with this way to do this on a mountaintop and I'm nerding out on it and I'm so excited and pumped about it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Nerd out hardcore. There's like a 4-wheel drive requirement for having this job. You have to, do you like camping and getting up at 2 a.m.? There's all these like weird little nuances to this style of hair. It makes it very incredibly difficult to hire people.
I bet.
It makes it unique and fun. My elevator speech is 3 hours long, but it's cool.
Yeah, totally. So let's say there's some elopement photographers out there who are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that Crystal existed. I do hiking elopements in Colorado. I want to recommend her services. Like, what's the best way for us photographers to talk to our couples and our brides about this type of service?
So I guess distinguishing first like who fits into this category of people that want an adventure elopement stylist as opposed to traditional bridal stylist. And so the first thing I always kind of tell people is like, did you hire an adventure elopement photographer? Is the answer yes? Okay, then probably you fit into that category. Secondly, things like what is the timeline for the day? If they're having an afternoon adventure elopement and you guys are near a fairly big size city, maybe it's not necessarily a requirement, but so things that are a little bit harder to be accessible, the timeline is a little bit restrictive, or there is some sort of big hike or big adventure involved. That would be kind of your baseline of who would qualify or who would be a good candidate for this particular service.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess the last one is, do you have somebody who is afraid of having their hair and makeup done? Because
Yeah.
I feel like that is a real thing. Again, going back to your senior prom or your brother's wedding,
Mm-hmm.
where, your mom didn't recognize you. So those are kind of like starting basis of who would be a really good candidate for having an adventure elopement stylist with you. And then in terms of talking to them, I guess the people that are mentioning like, I don't want to do my own hair and makeup. What am I going to look like? Because I don't want this to be a barrier to entry for anyone, that
Right.
they feel like they can look or feel confident out there on the mountain.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it probably doesn't have to be a hiking thing. Because I know, because you did one of my couples and we went up and hiked, but you didn't come with us. And I can
Mhm.
imagine you just doing a sunrise thing where people are jeeping somewhere or something. So it's
Yeah.
not like you necessarily have to be the most outdoorsy hiking person. But,
No.
if you're going to be adventuring around in the elements, and you're not necessarily somebody who wants like full glam. You want somebody who you can feel like a connection with because you both like camping and waking up early and mountains and landscapes and outdoors instead
I
of
say that I like getting up early.
Yeah,
I'm just there.
true.
No. By the time I get to them, I feel like I like it, but initially, no.
Yeah.
No, actually, you're totally right. Like, I do a lot of overlanding style, like, jeeping around style of elopements.
Hmm.
They do not all include a hike. And we also do offer two different packages. One of them is called the Wild Bride package, where I just show up, I do hair and makeup, and I send you out into the wild with Todd and Megan to go have fun that day. A lot of times I'll pack them like a little touch-up kit with maybe some extra lip color and maybe a little bit of powder, the kind of things that for their specific type of adventure or their specific skin type or that kind of thing, the things that they might need.
Yeah.
And then we offer the adventure package where we show up, we do the hair and makeup, and then we're with them for the whole day.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of different options for that. But no, they don't have to be the most adventure-y, like hardcore people in the world.
Yeah. You just have to decide if you want, your hairstylist and makeup artist, if you want Crystal with you the whole time doing touch-ups and making sure you look great. That's really what it comes down to, which is so cool that you offer that, because from experience, there have been brides who are like, that was so great to have somebody there to, do my little touch-ups, make sure my lips look good, make sure my hair isn't all crazy, all that kind of stuff.
Like if you think about a traditional wedding, you're kind of always accessible to a restroom where you can go in and look in the mirror and be like, is my lipstick smudged? Is something going on? You don't have that in the backcountry. So with us being there, you're guaranteed all day long that they're going to know that they look good because somebody's keeping tabs on them. And I think from a photographer standpoint, one of the things that I started to realize talking to photographers is just the confidence boost that they have from knowing that they look great all day. Never a single moment in the day do they question whether or not they look good.
Yeah.
They know that someone is just there on top of that. And I really try to make the experience not just great for the couple, but really great for the photographer as well. Like that's kind of, we're out there to support them. We're out there to be part of their team so that their day feels a lot more like she's got my back. She can check on these things. I don't have to carry the weight of this entire experience and make sure everything is grand and perfect for them. I've got another person here that's got my back as well.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing to have somebody there to like fluff the dress and adjust things. And it's awesome from the photography standpoint, because I can't tell you how many times I've like lined up a shot and then like the dress moves because of the wind and I have to go run up and fix it. And it does kind of, and it interrupts their moment. It interrupts my
Mhm.
creative flow. So anytime you can have that extra set of hands, even if like what you were saying, you're like a snack Sherpa, like
Just make sure they have enough snacks to not let their blood sugar drop. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Like nobody's hangry. Everyone looks good.
Mhm.
Everyone's focused on the things that they're the best at. It's just
Yeah.
amazing. So we talked briefly about the 6 mile hike in the rain. Is there any other like adventure elopement that stands out to you as just like one that you loved or just was crazy or share one with us?
Oh gosh. I did have one. It wasn't necessarily insane. It was at the top of Loveland Pass,
Mm-hmm.
and
Which you can drive
I
to.
which you can drive to. It's a
Mm-hmm.
really yep, you jump out, you get out of the car. It's absolutely gorgeous location. This particular bride, I remember at one point once we got her into the dress at her Airbnb, I had put the veil back into the garment bag and put it next to their backpacks and everything and touched both of them on the shoulders and said, "I just put the veil back in the garment bag next to your backpacks." So we drive from Breckenridge up to Loveland Pass, and this probably wouldn't have mattered had it not been the veil, which was more of like a cape,
Mm-hmm.
was the specific reason this bride bought this dress. So
Oh
it was
no.
so, so important.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh God, this is going to ruin everything for her. And luckily, there was a little bit of leeway time, but it was a 45-minute drive back to Breckenridge. I look at my photographer. I do one of these, like, I got you, girl. I jump back in my car, drive back to Breckenridge as fast as I can. I don't know if you've ever tried to drive really, really fast down Loveland Pass. It's not safe. It is
Lots
not
of
safe.
switchbacks and like drop offs.
I'm going to try not to die today. I just want this bride to have her cape.
Yeah.
So I got it back. Luckily, the entire family was late to the ceremony because they also got lost at, I don't know, Keystone or something.
Hmm.
So the point was like having that extra set of hands there in that moment of absolute crisis, where you're like, this is a big thing. This is a
Yeah.
big thing. So important to her. And I was able to go back, grab that cape, make sure that she didn't necessarily have it for the ceremony, but she had it for all the photographs on the top of Loveland Pass afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a big and memorable and happy thing that I was able to go, oh, yeah, totally. I got you.
Yeah. You saved the day.
Well, I'm not going to say I saved the day, but I did feel.
You're so humble.
I know, right? That's kind of part of my role is like, I am just there to make sure that everything goes smooth. I watch dogs. I've watched kids.
Mm.
I've literally sewn a dress onto a bride before because there
Nice.
was the fit was just kind of not right. And I'm like, well, I was in 4-H. I can probably help you.
So you're like a jack of all trades as well as a stylist. You're just there.
MacGyver
Yeah.
slash, yeah, Mary Poppins. Yep.
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 Yep. You're
Is
there to help with whatever needs helping, which is like
mhm.
a lot of times falls on the photographer. So it's amazing to have two heads troubleshooting and problem solving because a lot of times that can really take us out of what we're supposed to do, which is document everything if we're running around
Yeah.
doing those things. So that's amazing
And it
from a
really
photography
can make
standpoint.
yeah, it can really make the day go so much slower. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we can't expect everyone to have been in 4-H as a kid, right?
Yeah,
Like that is an unrealistic expectation.
totally. Well, this was so great. I'm so glad you shared all this. And I've worked with you,
Thank you.
and I feel like I've learned a lot, even. And I know even better how to talk to my couples about all of this. So, where can people find you? Because I'm sure there's photographers out there that are like, ooh, I need to be able to recommend this. And do you travel or are you only doing Colorado?
No, actually, I was going to bring that up. I do like the Mountain West. So in October, I'll be in Yosemite. I just got back from Glacier National Park.
Oh, nice.
There's potential I'll be up in the Olympic National Park region this also October.
Nice.
I love getting out to Moab and Utah. I would love to get in touch with some photographers in southern Idaho and spend some more time there. But most of my work as of right now is in Colorado. I try to make it out of the state as much as I possibly can.
Nice.
We did Bryce Canyon last year too. That was really great.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I always tell people there's no harm in asking
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes I do a lot of really financially irresponsible things because I think it's cool. Am I
I
a
feel
good
like
business
that's
owner?
all us
Maybe not.
photographers too.
No, right? are we not all here just because we want to do cool stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, so I absolutely fall into that category with the rest of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So there is never any harm in asking. I will probably make dumb things happen to get there if you really want me there.
If you're listening, definitely reach out.
Reach out. What's the harm?
Yeah.
What's the worst I can say? No, I have never said no. Yeah. So anyway, wildbridesbackcountry.com is my website. You can find me at Wild Brides Backcountry on Instagram. I'm trying to be a TikTok person.
I
Again,
feel
I
you.
mentioned this earlier, but I am over 40, so that is hard.
Mm-hmm. I'm 40, so I feel you.
I can't. I don't live with my parents anymore. I can't TikTok. So, but yeah, that's where you can find me, or Crystal at Wild Brides Backcountry if you wanted to just reach out and email.
Well,
Yep.
thank you so much for being on the
Thank you.
podcast and all the education. And I can't wait to see more of your adventures. And I just really appreciate you coming on and educating us photographers on how we can best serve our clients. It's really awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I love having people know that I exist.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. Great.
Super helpful.
Well, thanks so much. And we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for joining us on this episode of Stoked with Megan McPhail. If you enjoyed the show and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, leave a review, and tell a friend. If you're looking for more inspiring content, check us out on Instagram at Stoked with Megan McPhail. And to learn more about my business coaching and how I can personally help you quit your 9-to-5, visit my website at meganmcphail.com. I hope this leaves you feeling stoked. See you next week.